Running on efficiency is not a game for agencies. There's no money in that game. You're scared for your job. You are not going to do the best job for a brand or for the agency. You're going to do the best job to keep your job. In 24 months or 36 months, every company is going to have the same information, the same technology, the same strategy, the same data. The only difference between one company and the next company is going to be the brand. The reinvestment in people and the reinvestment in brand is probably the biggest thing that I'm excited about. I sense there is a world of possibility where optimism, we're going to go through some hard times, but optimism is going to be the winner at the end of the day.
Today, I'm talking with Anthony Reeves. Anthony has spent his career inside some of the biggest agencies and brands in the world. He's worked at WPP multiple times, held senior roles at Amazon and LVMH, and now leads global brand and creative at Kohler. So he's seen the business from both sides, the agencies trying to prove their value and the brands deciding what they still need agencies for. And right now, that feels pretty urgent. AI is making execution cheaper, brands are building more capability in-house, holding companies are consolidating, production is getting squeezed. So what should agencies still be great at? This is Anthony Reeves. How did you end up in the freezing tundra?
So I was with WPP for a long time. After I left Amazon, I rejoined WPP. I got this strange phone call from a recruiter out of the blue and just said, "Hey, have you ever thought about moving to the Midwest?" And the hard answer was no. I was just far off the cards. But then eventually, my wife is from Wisconsin, and we came over here. We live in a town of Kohler, Wisconsin, which is stunningly beautiful. It really blended a lot of where I wanted to take my career and move forward, and it worked out phenomenally well. Our daughter's happy, so we're good.
What is the job of a creative leader when speed is cheap and trust is scarce?
We have to have great ideas. We have to have great thinking. We have to have great teams. I think more about the inputs rather than the output. And the inputs are really what drive the great creative. And this is a huge lesson I learned from Amazon is I can change teams, I can change structure, I can change process, but the teams really drive the work. And from a trust point of view is I spend a lot of time with our legal team, and I spend a lot of time with the head of marketing, and spend a lot of time with our CTO. And really building that level of trust to allow the teams to have that frictionless experience of when they're doing the work.
Obviously, AI's been a pretty hot topic for a number of years now in this world of synthetic content. What do you think emotional integrity looks like?
So Gully, I was on a stage in 2018 talking about AI, and I remember the moment really well because I felt like I was being booed off stage. We were talking about how to use data to drive creative briefs and how we can get to the output of creativity a lot faster. And for us at Kohler, we're very, very, very protective of our customer and our consumer, and the spaces we live in are real spaces. And so we have a hard line at the moment about not using synthetic people in our content at all. With that in mind, without using AI, it's physically impossible to hire the right amount of people. There's a campaign we're putting out now that has to have 300 plus edits of a video, 300 different sizes of video across all the platforms.
Wow.
And if we had people doing that, whether they're onshore at scaled services, the budgets would be blown, the sales numbers would be blown, the cost per campaign would be out of control. The demand on the platforms and the size content that platforms has really pushed us to use AI. We use it for resizing, not creating. And there's a real difference between the two. So we're really resizing an immense amount of content and reformatting content using AI. But the true creativity of it all is it's still done by a human hand.
Well, if you think back to that speech in 18, and how you're thinking about AI today, has a lot shifted, or do you feel like the core way to think about these tools remains pretty consistent?
There's two types of progress. One is the soft skill progress of people accepting AI, and I have no doubt there's been a huge amount of change there where people are more accepting of the tool. At the time I was with Amazon, we could go into the cart from an Amazon point of view and really understand who the customer was, what they were looking to buy. We knew exactly what was going on in that household. And that really fueled a creative brief. And we did a test of giving it to 200 creative teams about the use of an AI-driven brief. And it was really quite controversial if you think about the center of creative excellence in the world is the Lions, and we're telling them to use AI. And I felt unsafe there for a minute, especially walking up and down the Croisette later that night. However, now it's a very, very different world where we use AI a lot, like from storyboards through to mood boards through to everything else in between. The core nugget of creativity, I personally believe it still belongs to a human. And the spaces that Kohler as a brand lives in is we live in two spaces of your house. One is the kitchen, where you care for other people. It's a very, very emotional space. And the other emotional space is the bathroom, where you might take 10 minutes in the shower or do your makeup routine on a Sunday night. It's a very human space, and that's not who we are as a brand. There's some brands have lent into AI, and the backlash has been massive.
I still believe at the core of the best, most unique and original ideas in advertising come from great strategy and great planners. How do you reconcile that with, what you talked about Amazon as the cart? I feel like everybody's sort of fallen in love with big data of the past decade, but I don't hear as much about like that sort of unique creative process that I think, this whole industry was really built upon.
Yeah, I go back to my early days of George Patterson in Australia and think about that brief process, and it had to be signed off by the head of planning, had to be signed off the creative director, and had to be signed off by like a physical signature on a page had to be on that brief. And there was a almost like oracle type feeling around the strategy team, which I still believe is really, really true. And the strategy team, they have immense talent, and the team here that are strategists are phenomenal, and that the consumer insight is phenomenal. One of the differences though is back then a lot of the data was kind of subjective in a way. Like you read the data and you could break it down, and great strategists could weave between the lines. What a creative brief does now with all the data we have is takes a lot of the subjectivity out, and it allows for real insights and a great strategist to really pull out something that's really quite magical from the other side. And in theory, the theory is a wonderful thing. The creative should be better because we have more information about the customer. The other side of it, and the unfortunate side of it, is when you have too much data, it's really, really hard to focus on what's important. And the best campaigns over the years have been brutally simple. And when there's so much data, it can get a little bit murky. And I will set in a pre-briefing, quite a lot before the brief gets to the team. And we really have to sort of nut it down to what we're talking about, because data can be very confusing in the wrong hands. You chatted a lot about like the rise of the indie, and I do believe there's something really, really great about that. That you and I being Australian, I think the whole Australian culture is about this indie type feel. And
The underdog, yeah.
We are the underdog, and we cut down the tall poppy very quickly, but we are the underdog. Between us and that neighboring country of New Zealand, we really pride ourselves on being small, but being big at being small. And a population of like 24, 25 million just in Australia, we have a really big voice. But that movement forward is a part of our life. And for us, it's that scrappiness, and the rise of the indie is a part of that. It's part of that scrappiness. From a holding company point of view, I am concerned about what's going to happen to the talent rising through, because holding companies were a feeding type area, and they fed the indies and they fed all these smaller teams. However, at the same time, we think about holding companies, and the money is not in creative at the moment, and the money from a media point of view, those commission rates have been pulled down lower and lower and lower. And the CMO also has to hit a sales number now. And if they don't hit a sales number, they're out of a job. So the job of an agency has changed dramatically, and it's going to change more with the growth of AI. I don't believe that the agency should be holding the data. And I put that quite clearly out there. I don't think they should be a data company. I do believe they should be really hand in hand with the client. We've seen that as people drop away, where agencies are looking for every bit of revenue, but they've lost why they're there in the first place. And they should be there in the first place, which is what indie agencies are really doing. They will actually go back to their roots and be a lot stronger as an entity across the board.
How should agency owners and leaders be thinking about their business and be thinking about providing value with a brand, like Cola or, any of the brands you've worked with?
15 years ago, I doubt I would have ever hired someone from an internal agency. You don't want that myopic down the road, very, very singular thinking. And it's taken me a long time to work through that. And there are some really great in-house agencies. What Amazon is doing with the in-house agency at the moment is absolutely staggering. It is run by an Australian.
XCM, right? Yeah, Joe. Yep.
Yeah. So I think what Joe's done over the last 5 years is phenomenal. Like, just the way they've changed. There is a really great thing about being internal, and you can actually get away with a little bit more because you know the inside story, you know the inside gossip. So from a holding company point of view, there's a couple of things about knowing the client and knowing what the limitations are of the client. And for us, our limitations truly are, can we get the right people to do the work? Can we provide the right sales numbers? Can we link what we do in a 30-second spot or a pre-roll spot? Can we link that to an output? Running on efficiency is not a game for agencies. I have teams in India cranking out, lots of ad variations and ad sizes. Yeah, WPP just launched WPP.
You won't win that game, right?
You're not going to win that game. There's no money in that game. It's not a big bet game, and you're not going to win it. You need to work out what you really want to be great at and what's going to really drive your revenue forward. And it might mean less people. It might mean less revenue per year, but it'll mean greater margins. And if you can really hold that true to who you are as a company, as a foundation, you will do a lot stronger. Agencies and networks especially have really been brought together to save money. And I don't believe that's the right thing. It's not the right thing for us. We work with a couple of design firms who are part of a big holding company. And you can tell at the end of last year, they were like, let's get the billings through. And it's like, that doesn't suit me. Like, the job's not done. And understanding us is a really big deal.
Figure out who you are, figure out what you're great at. Don't try to be everything to everyone.
I've been really thinking about this and a lot lately as the world is going through like immense changes. And at the bottom line, as a person and as a father and a husband, one of the things I want to do is make sure I put food on the table. I want to do the best job possible, do that a lot. But if I'm really thinking about, am I going to have my job? I'm not doing the real important stuff at the other end. And, I think everyone that works in advertising or marketing has done Maslow's hierarchy of needs at some point. And we need everyone to be performing at the very top of that pyramid. And it seems so performative to talk about this, but we need our teams to be at the very, very best. And if agencies are going through merger after merger, job cut after job cut, all creative people and all strategy people and all the people that think and solve problems for a living, all they're worried about is doing the job that keeps them getting paid. And that's the wrong place to be in. And that's the wrong attitude to have. And people are scared for jobs at the moment. And when we think about, if you're scared for your job, you are not going to do the best job for a brand or for the agency. You're going to do the best job to keep your job. And that's not the right way to approach it.
How do you think about protecting or insulating your teams to make sure that they're able to stay focused and do their best work?
Yeah. This is a moment of a bit of introspection, because I'm putting the final touches on a book at the moment, and I've really thought about my career. And there were times when I'll be really direct about this. I have made so many mistakes. It's not funny. It's just phenomenal, the things I've done wrong and done people wrong, and think about it from a fear point of view or not a fear point of view. And as a leader now, knowing and hopefully learning from those mistakes, our job is not so much about the creative work. And that the hardest thing about being a creative leader or a strategy leader is we are problem solvers at our core. We love to solve a problem, whether it's a family problem or a brand problem or a creative problem. That's what we're kind of born for, and that's what we love to do.
You're trying to get in there and fix it, right?
Love fixing it. I love it. Like the best time I've ever had in my life is either in a shoot or a recording studio. And that's phenomenal. I love fixing things. The problem with that, though, is you're not setting your teams up for success. You're not allowing them to actually make the same mistakes that was given to us years and years ago. And I've had so many people in my career that have been so helpful or have sat down with me over the years and say, Anthony, if you do this, it's going to hurt. Or you made this mistake, what can you do better? So now as a creative leader, I tend to sit back a lot more. I think a lot more about the inputs of what's going to drive the situation forward for tomorrow. I'm not worried about the campaign they're working on now. I'll sit in the creative review or I'll help them present creative work. But my work should be thinking a year ahead. Like, how do I create a pipeline of great talent and help people grow? How can I build the relationships and trust to get great ideas through the system? How can I make sure the data that the strategy teams have is clean enough for a creative person to understand? If I'm thinking all the time about the output, I'm thinking about today and today only. And that's not the way it should be. I should be thinking like a year and a half ahead. And so when it does come to helping people survive, yes, creating the right environment and creating the ability for them to make mistakes. Making mistakes is part of being creative. If you're thinking about the concept stage, you might come up with 100 ideas, only one will rise to the top. I think that's the critical part of it, is always being uncomfortable enough to keep moving forward. There's a great saying about, ease is the greatest threat to progress, or the ease is the greatest threat to growth. And from my point of view, keeping the team sort of restless and having restless curiosity about life is the biggest thing that I can give them. When they get comfortable, it's time to send them on a trip, or time for them to explore a new media or learn a new technology or grow in a different way. But when they get super uncomfortable, you almost have to pull them back a little bit to make them a little bit more comfortable. And it's a case by case situation. Like, I have a great team in Chicago now, and they're doing some phenomenal work down there, but I can sense they're on the edge. So I need to give them a little bit more room, give them a little bit more space, or be open to them a little bit more. Whereas
I've never heard anyone say down in Chicago before, just so you know.
2.5 hours down in Chicago. Yeah, we
down south in Chicago. Yeah.
We are that far north. It is. Yeah. It's a very fortunate world that I live in, but it's interesting to think about creative teams and what you can give them rather than what you can take away from them. And taking away from creative teams is the biggest thing to inhibit their growth.
Give them space.
Absolute space. Feed them the fuel, like giving them the fuel to learn and to grow, but give them space to play. And space doesn't mean time, just means I'm not breathing down their neck all the time saying, where's that idea? I am a very, very hands-on. I'll tell you that I am a very, very hands-on person, and that is good and that is bad. I love to play and I love to tweak, and it drives our media partners absolutely crazy. Like, to the last nth, I'm moving pixels around or moving frames around. I do believe that it's the last 15% that makes a huge difference to a campaign.
How do you convince the CFO, the CEO to invest in brand when everybody just wants to juice the sales?
At Core, we're very lucky. Like, we're a family-owned company, 153 years long, and
wow.
The CEO, David, is a big believer in brand. So we have a, kind of lucky of other companies. Yeah, we're very fortunate. So there's a couple of things. A lot of CMOs these days, they have sales targets attached to their job. I do agree that's a really great thing. But when your personal bonus is attached to a sales number, that creates a dilemma. The most important reason to invest in brand right now is AI. AI is going to be the death of companies if you're not careful. And the way I think about AI is we're only just getting going at it, and there's so much information out there. But in 24 months or 36 months, every company is going to have the same information, the same technology, the same strategy, the same data, the same facts, and the same figures. And from a competitor point of view, it's going to be no difference from a General Motors vehicle to a Ford vehicle. And there was that shot that came out like 2 years ago where every white suburban car looked exactly the same, in the same shape, and the same form, and it's welcome to average. The only difference between one company and the next company is going to be the brand, what it stands for, what it believes in, who they are, because we're going to have the same data, we're going to have the same facts. If you're a customer walking through an aisle at Home Depot buying a new faucet or a new toilet, or if you're buying a new vehicle or something like that, the reliance on brand is going to be so much stronger in years to come. If you're doing this race to the bottom using AI, you're going to be in serious trouble. If you look at the investment of Delta Airlines versus Southwest Airlines, they're flying the same planes through the air. One is you're getting a bag of peanuts and you have to fight your way to get a seat. And the other one offers a much better experience through the app and through boarding. And that is the value of the brand. But at the end of the day, it's the same product. They're getting you from point A to point B.
Can you give us maybe the key takeaways from the book?
Majority of my growing up years was in the Australian outback. And it's one of the harshest and most lonely places in the world, where I've transferred to some of the most harshest and lonely boardrooms in the world. And the lessons that I learned in the outback truly are the exact same lessons I'm learning in the boardroom. It's all about moving forward. It's all about progression. And I know where I'm at in my career. The only thing that's kept me alive is momentum and moving forward. And I don't know whether it's an Australian thing, but that progression has been part of who I am. The fact that I was on stage in 2018 talking about AI is truly amazing when you think about where we are now. And it's a great leap forward. So in the book, I talk about, there's a theory I put forward, which is like being uncomfortable is a really good thing. And the art of being uncomfortable is a good thing. And I talk about discomfort and why it's really important. One of the other areas I talk about is the theory, which is about sticking to your foundations is the best way to go forward. Taking a go slow method to growth is the best way to go forward. And Jeff Bezos talks about this a lot too, where it's all about thinking about the long term and be really core as a brand of who you are as an individual. One of my best mentors in life, Tom, I met him when I was in Seattle, and I actually met him when I was working at Amazon. He was employee number 5 at Amazon.
Wow.
And the stories that Tom tells is just phenomenal. But I remember one particularly, he was talking about a coffee table book. And this is when Amazon was only in the book business. And he remembers the day when, Jeff came out carrying the book and said, "This is a coffee table book for a customer," and it had a clear scratch on the front cover. Now, if you're thinking about a coffee table book you're spending a lot of money on, you want your friends to see it, the last thing you want to have is a scratch on the front cover. So Jeff asked Tom to write a letter to the customer saying, "Dear Mr. and Mrs. Smith, please find and close your book. Unfortunately, we noticed there's a scratch on the front cover. We've ordered you a new one. It should arrive in 3 days' time. In the meantime, please take this book and keep it." If you think about that moment now to where Amazon is as a mega company, that customer obsession started in day one. It's part of their foundation. It's part of who they are. It's built into their systems. It's built into their process. So I truly believe that every company, especially agencies, should stick to their foundations of why they existed in the first place and why they are in business in the first place. The book is called Eat the Donkey. And the reason it's called Eat the Donkey is as kids growing up, unfortunately, we had to eat donkey and to survive. And it's about that hard decision of...
That's like proper outback.
Oh man, we were out there.
Yeah, right. Because there's like outback and there's like real outback. You know what I mean?
Yeah, this is outback, and I learned...
Sounds like Burke and Wills or something.
I'm not that old. I'm definitely old. I learned math by, there's some great photographs of the Land Rover that has all the jerry cans or the spare gas or petrol around it. is if the nearest town is 300 and 400 miles away and we get X amount per gallon along this dirt track, will we physically get there or not? Will we get to the shop to buy food or not? And that's how I
Yeah,
learned about
wow.
it. Stuck that way. So I do believe discomfort's a great thing. And even from a sporting point of view, when I raced around the world racing Ironman and ultra marathons, discomfort is a really good thing, but it's really focused on the inputs and not the outputs. And the
Hmm.
inputs are really what drives the business. And the inputs are what makes changes to creativity. And the inputs are what makes changes to brand. But as long as you're sticking true to who you are as a company, you will always do well. Same as a person is if you think about your life and when you've been very uncomfortable and unsure about yourself and not thinking about the care you will need to take for yourself, you're probably doing things that are outside of your foundations. And that's only you have your foundations. My foundations are different. Someone else's foundations are different again. And what you believe in as an individual is really, really important.
What advice do you have for young people today who, might be interested in becoming a creative or joining the marketing advertising industry?
So there are a couple of things, and a couple of these are going to be very controversial, is really look at what you excelled in high school.
Hmm.
And I did not. And I went and did engineering first, and I completely made a mess of that. But I did really well in film and graphics in high school, and did poorly in math. And so getting into advertising I think it's a good thing. There's one part about advertising which is making the campaigns and really following art and science and technology and really connecting on that human level and using technology to scale it out. The second part about it is you need to build that network. You really need to build that network and be around people and understand the complications of what it takes to run a business. And yes, we're in the advertising business. Yes, we make great creative work, but working from home is not gonna be your point of difference. Working from home is destined to actually put you out of a job. As a leader of a really large team, I have the ability to hire and unfortunately on the other side, we do let people go. Things aren't working out for a number of reasons. People who are B plus to A minus people, but their effort and their intention is really, really there and they're pushing really hard. They're the people who I invest in. We have one person on the team who's absolutely phenomenal from a heart, from a drive, from a passion point of view. He drives an hour and 20 each way every day to be in the office.
Wow.
Do you think I'm going to cut him some slack when something goes wrong? Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's either one that wants to learn through osmosis and come into meetings that he wasn't invited to, rather than having to dial in, he will sit on a briefing that he wasn't invited to. Absolutely. When we do wall reviews, we put work up on a wall. He's the one that's listening in from the background when other people are out of home. So he's learning constantly. And that's the really big difference is how do you become that sponge of life?
And what would you say about moving to a big city? Because I'm in Australia. I grew up in the country, not the outback, I will say, but the country. Um, but I moved to Sydney, and then I moved to New York, and I moved to LA, and that's really where I built my network and the foundations of the work. Would you advise young people to get to a big city?
Absolutely. I think
Yeah.
moving from one city to another city, whether it's from Sydney to Melbourne, or Sydney to New York, or to LA, or to London, is two things happen to that. One is you're making yourself uncomfortable and you're learning new things and finding a new worldly look of life. And that's really important where you're not stuck on the same thing. And the second thing is great talent exists around great talent. You're only as good as your real estate around you. And so whether you're an athlete or a creative person, the best people are going to gather in a certain part of the world. So Gully, you live in Encinitas. And that used to be the training ground for all the best Ironman people in the world for a long,
Oh,
long, long time. And there are great brands that live there. There's a reason that Red Bull exists.
Fiore. Yep.
Fiore's live there.
It's Fiore, right? It's very
There you
comfortable.
go. The property around you is just as important as the way you think. And by moving to a big city, you're surrounded by more people doing the same thing. And it's a very, very competitive landscape, and you're learning very, very quickly, and your growth rate will go through the roof. If you stick to the town that you grew up in, and it could be a phenomenal town, you become very isolated in that one way of thinking. And that is the biggest holdback for a creative person, is not being open to other things around you. I always ask the question of when I ask myself the question is, when I'm uncomfortable, am I uncomfortable because it's something new, or am I uncomfortable because I don't like it? And if it's something new, I lean further into it. If I don't like something and I'm uncomfortable, I'll just pull out of it.
What are you most excited about for this year?
I'm not excited about AI, and it's just, AI is great, and we have to use it. And with the scale of content we build now, the scale of thinking we have to do now, we have to use AI. People have had enough, and they're going to stand up and be heard and have their voice. And I'm really excited by people finding their voice and talking. From a creative point of view, brands are now realizing that they can't literally survive on sales numbers alone. Like, everything drives profit, but what's going to drive the sales numbers and the brand is where the money is going to really be in the years to come. So I'm excited about this. The reinvestment in people and the reinvestment in brand is probably the biggest thing that I'm excited about. I sense there is a world of possibility where optimism, we're going to go through some hard times, but optimism is going to be the winner at the end of the day. Production companies, I wouldn't want to be in that space at the moment. That's a phenomenally hard space.
The further downstream you are, the more at risk you are from elimination from AI, right?
Yeah, and they're squeaking out pennies on the dollar, and that's not a way to survive. It's just not a good existence. And so I think from an agency point of view, it's really how do you really find that core nugget of what you want to be great at, and what type of clients you really want. And it's like friends, like knowing who you want to spend most of your amount of time with is probably the key thing. And the same for an agency. It's like, what is it that we really want to do, and what clients are we really going to do well at? And that's a really big difference. If you're chasing revenue, you're always going to be behind. If you're chasing a job title, you're never going to be satisfied. And you can't physically be the same thing to everyone. It's impossible. Like, you're spreading yourself too thin. But if you want to be really great at something, you can really dive into owning that territory, and just ignoring the rest. Don't chase that short-term revenue. Like, look for long-term gains. And that's a really big Amazon lesson, is like, the short-term revenue is something they can walk away from, but the long-term gains, you can really see the difference now for them.
What would you advise people to identify as like the North Star to either, reorganize the business, or to sort of rally the troops around something that's really motivating versus just, chasing profits?
The North Star is really, really hard for public companies, because that every quarter when they do earnings, they really need to roll out what it is. My gut for the North Star.
Make the number go up, basically.
Yeah, and that's not a North Star. That's an output number. And you should be really focused on the input. The North Star to me is not about revenue. The revenue will come. The North Star is what you are going to mean to the person that's going to buy your product. How are you going to connect with them, and what are you going to do with them? And from a Kohler point of view, we talk a lot about being bold and being gracious and everything like that, and creating those moments for people to exist in. For Nike, if you have a body, you're an athlete, and it's about empowering the other people. So the North Star is not about your company. It's really about who you're trying to serve and who you're trying to do something better for.
Well, Anthony, I appreciate it. Thanks for coming on Second Wind. It was a real pleasure.
This is